Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We're here with Nick Gray, and Nick is an entrepreneur and a best-selling author. He lives in Austin, Texas, and he started and sold two successful companies called Flight Display Systems and Museum Hack. And he is the author of the 2-Hour Cocktail Party, which is a step-by-step handbook that teaches you how to build big relationships by hosting small gatherings. So, Nick, glad to be talking to you.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. And I'm just now realizing as I'm reading this, I have your book right here. I was thinking like, man, that title sounds familiar. And I'm like, I know I got his book in the mail, and here it was, like literally in plain view. So we have your books.
I saw it back there. I saw it back there.
Should have spoken up. So yeah, I'm ashamed to admit that I have not yet read it, but we have it as the prop, and we have it for you so that way you can tell us all about what we need to know. So what the heck is the 2-Hour Cocktail Party all about, and what makes you unique and special?
So I'll explain it, and as I'm explaining it, flip through it because I'm really proud. It's really like a handbook or a step-by-step guide with checklists and challenges that challenge someone to learn how to host an event. Now, it says cocktail party, but that phrase is just about a gathering, a lightweight social gathering. I don't even drink alcohol. There's not a single drink recipe in the book. But I think that people can build their network in an authentic way to grow their network of acquaintances and make new friends by hosting a cocktail party. So that's my whole thing, is trying to help people make new friends as an adult. You know, it's really hard. Nobody teaches us how to make new friends as we get older. And so that's what I'm obsessed with.
Well, that seems like a good thing to be obsessed with. And, this whole idea of the cocktail party, I have to admit that maybe up until like a month ago, I wrote off the idea because it always sounded like kind of like a cliche, right? Like, oh, it's a party, everyone hangs out. But then as somewhere someone was talking more about it, just this idea, kind of like you said, of like, you don't find yourself as an adult in these situations where you connect with the people that you want to, and then and even less so in your business, right? Because now you're an adult and you have, like your neighbors and your family and your kids' friends and things like that. But you're like, what about the people that I really need to be in contact with? But then you say, well, okay, then I'll just spam people, right? I'll just like send all kinds of emails and I'll see who I want to talk to. But then no one likes that. And so the cocktail party seems like a cool idea, because now you can kind of like get to know semi-large number of people on like a shallow basis and then see if there's more. And that seems like a more logical way to go once my brain overcame writing it off as a total cliche.
Wait, it sounds like you've read my book, because you are preaching my gospel. That is what I'm all about. It's a lot of lightweight little conversations to see who you want to go deep with later. But by the way, your friends are going to love you if you host a party like this, because they'll get to meet other people. And that's the number one benefit I found, is all the people who read my book and host a party, it sounds silly, but their lives actually change. It's like, how can your life change with just a party? But you reconnect with, 15 to 20 people in the time it takes you to watch a movie on Netflix. If you just host an event, wow, it's crazy. I'm super hyped about it. I want to convince you to host one. Where do you live, by the way?
Central California.
Central California. All right. So my challenge will be, if you ever think about hosting a cocktail party like this, I would love to personally help you out. I'm on a mission to get 500 people to read my book and host a party for their friends and neighbors, because there really is like a loneliness epidemic happening. And I'm trying to help people make new friends and help their friends meet new people as well. That's really key.
And my wife and I have conversations like this all the time. It seems like there's a select group of people who are naturally social and who have all kinds of friends. And it seems like the older you get, the harder it is, the more like the groups are kind of hard and solidified. And then even you add to that, I'm almost 40 and I have a young kid. So there's all these like parents now are like 20.
Yes.
I'm like, I thought my whole life I was going to make friends with other parents, but now all the parents are younger than me. So,
yes.
but I realize I'm putting all these excuses in front of myself, right? I'm sabotaging myself doing it. So what sort of self-sabotage like this do you hear from people? Do they say I'm worried no one will show up, I don't know where to start? Like, what do people say as far as like why they can't do it, so that way we can overcome it?
For those of you watching on video, I'm like dancing around because I'm so excited. This is the perfect question. So I hear a lot of self-sabotage. Well, first of all, the number one fear. What do you think the number one fear is of someone who's never hosted a party before? What's a fear for them?
Looking stupid.
Looking stupid is a really good one. What will people do at my party? Will they just hang around? The number one fear that I actually find is that people are worried that nobody will show up. They're actually worried that no one will show up, or worse, only 2 or 3 people will show up and it'll be awkward. And so much of my book is about helping them fill up their guest list by using a long, what I call party runway. That's giving yourself at least 3 weeks of time to invite your people. So you say, hey, I want to host a party. Well, you choose your date at least 3 or 4 weeks out in the future. So you can start to collect RSVPs and give everybody time, like you said, to get some childcare or plan for babysitters or something like that. The other self-sabotage, and then I have questions about how old your kids are. But the other self-sabotage is a lot of people say, my house isn't nice enough, it's too dirty, or it's too small, or too far away. Those are things I hear all the time, because these parties, by the way, you need to host them at home. And I can tell you why that's important to turbocharge your relationships. But I hear that, oh, my house is too small, it's too messy, it's too dirty, it's too far away. And those things actually don't matter. And I have things about all of those, but I can tell you that people respect more those who actually host a party than someone who comes up with all these excuses for why they shouldn't.
Okay, so that's good to know. Like they'll respect you more for doing it, despite what you see as the flaws or the disadvantages, which probably aren't disadvantages anyway, right? Like your house is small, use the space you have. Your house is dirty, like use it as motivation to clean things. And so so it just, but I don't know if it's my like male brain or something, but I kind of get stuck in this catch-22 of like, hosting the party seems silly. Just like, going to parties in high school, it seems silly, but then the alternative is being like sad and alone and lonely. And so there's like, at least for me, there's this gap, right? There's the gap between, I don't want to be some sad, pathetic, lonely, alone person, but then also I want to have the advantages that the party gives. But then in the meantime, it seems like almost like shutting off my brain and my self-doubt and just doing all these actions because I want the result, but I'm just so, I don't know, nervous, terrified, hesitant about these things that need to be done to get to the destination.
That's a very real concern. And I'll tell you what, I hosted over 400 gatherings and parties and dinners and networking events and cocktail parties. And I found over 6 years of testing with hundreds of people, what's kind of the perfect formula to make sure that it's successful. And I talked to a guy yesterday or maybe the day before who's in Massachusetts, and he's very shy and kind of has social anxiety. And he said, I just used your book as the bad guy. I told people, hey, I'm just reading this book. I'm just doing this because this guy was on my podcast. I'm just follow the book. And he said, I followed every single thing in your book and used it so that I could sort of step away from myself. And that really helped him. And the party was a huge success. I have a list on my website, which I'll include the show notes of photos of all these people who read my book and hosted their first party. You said something though about a small house. My house is too small. And one thing I found, by the way, is that small houses or apartments are actually better for parties than huge mansions. Why is that? Because in a small space, the energy is higher. It's electric. You walk into a small apartment with 15 people and everybody's bumping around. There's noise, there's activity, there's conversations. In an enormous house, you don't have that at all. And so you actually need to close off space in a big house.
Ooh, that's good to know. So the disadvantage becomes the advantage. And so with all this talk, so that's great that you can kind of say, well, here's the checklist, and I can just like shut off my own kind of trying to make my own recipe, just follow this recipe. So that way you can shut your brain off and just let the book do things on autopilot. And so when we're talking about gatherings, people always bring up, COVID, the virus. And so has there been any like pushback on that? People saying like, oh, well, I can't have the gathering because of the virus or problems getting people to attend? Or is it just a matter of you're meeting anyway?
Short answer is that you should use your own risk assessment and judgment. I'm not a doctor. I don't specialize in infectious diseases. And if you have a lowered immune system, feel free to kind of use your own risk level to decide, do I want to host the party? Should I keep my windows open? Maybe keep a door open, a fan going? Should I host them at masks? Should I not? What I can say is that 2 or 3 years ago, when I was beta testing my book with people, it was a lot harder to get people to gather for obvious reasons. Now I rarely hear about it, to be honest. It's never really a concern anymore.
Well, good to know. And so yeah, we've been talking about this idea of doing this 2-hour cocktail gathering, and I feel like I don't know what the next question is to ask, right? Because
yes, yeah, I'll tell you real quick.
So yeah, what are we to know that we're not covering yet?
So what happens at the party? So you might be wondering, oh, I don't want to host a party because I don't want it to be cringe or embarrassing. It seems cheesy, but I want all the benefits, right? Yes. Briefly, I'll talk about the benefits, and then I'll tell you about what happens at the party. First of all, what if you had people that were inviting you and your wife and your kids? How old are your kids, by the way?
2. Just a boy. We're one and done. That's it. Just
cool.
A 2-year-old.
Nice. And when does he have a birthday party coming up or anything like that?
In 3 months, he'll turn 3. So probably not planned yet.
Nice. I would encourage you at his birthday party to use name tags for the adults who attend. I worked with a woman who did her 1-year-old birthday party, and she said, oh, I did name tags and I followed your book even for that, and it helped the adults to sort of connect. I'll talk about why the name tags are important here in a second. But first, the benefits. What if you and your wife were like getting invited to like play dates or hangouts or events or gatherings? What if your social calendar just filled up and you had the option to be invited to all those things? You saw people in your neighborhood who said hello to you. You were recognized at the grocery store, things like that. You might not want those things, but those are the benefits that a lot of my readers say when they start to host gatherings. They get introduced to a lot of new people, and their circle really grows. They do more fun stuff. It's not hard. Anyone can host a party. You just have to step up and actually do it. But what happens at the party? That's your worry. Is it going to be awkward? What happens at the party is, think about my name, Nick, N-I-C-K. I'll tell you the Nick party formula, so you don't even have to read my book. This is what's inside. N stands for name tags. Everybody wears name tags. It may seem awkward, but it turbocharges the connections. Name tags serve to remove the awkwardness of forgetting someone's name and to show that everyone's on the same page. This isn't a party of cliques where it's, oh, just your work friends, just your neighbors, just your wife friends. Everybody's on the same team. They're wearing name tags to make it a safe space to go up and say hi and meet somebody new. Okay, so that's N from the Nick formula. I stands for icebreakers. There'll be 2.5 rounds of icebreakers at your party, and I promise they won't be awkward. Even if you think, oh, this sounds childish, these icebreakers help you know who's at the party. Because what if you go to a party, Robert, and you're like, dang, that person hosts a podcast? I want to talk to them too. Or, oh, that person runs their own business. I want to meet them. When you do an icebreaker, everybody gets to sort of introduce themselves briefly and quickly. So you learn who's at the party to go up and meet somebody new. But they also have a secret function. They help you end conversations. Because have you ever been at a party trapped, like you're talking to somebody and you don't know how to end the conversation? Well, with icebreakers, you're going to serve as these little interruptions during your party to help mix up the room. So that's the I from the N-I-C-K. C stands for cocktails only. There's no dinner, no food. You can do light snacks, but it's cocktails. It's really a self-serve bar. And the reason for this is I want to make it as easy as possible for you and your wife to host this event with no stress and minimal preparation. Okay, so that's the C. And then the K stands for kick them out at the end. The party's only 2 hours long. You got to kick them out. You got to end the party on time. And my book in chapter 14, I think, goes through exactly how to end the party so everybody leaves excited and happy. So that's the general gist of the party. Now that you've heard about it and you're thinking, what questions do you have or what would hold you back from hosting one?
I don't know. Like, I think the maybe getting the wife on board and then implementation is that,
Yes.
I'm hesitant, but I'm the kind of person where like if I can get my logical part of the brain to overcome the emotional, I can say like my body doesn't want to do this, but my brain does, so I can go ahead and do it. But then you need the spouse on board. So I'm a little concerned that like kind of the cheesiness or the hesitation or saying, well, there's this random guy that I met on a podcast that mailed me his random book. Getting the
Yes.
wife on board seems like a one small roadblock.
It seems a little bit harder. Would she want the same benefits that you mentioned?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
more of the social calendar and having those options and just recognizing neighbors instead of living near a bunch of strangers. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you could get her on board with the benefits to speak about what doing this could do. And then here's the key thing. My book will tell you how to handle everything. Many times with our partners, they think, oh, now this is just going to get dumped on me and I'm going to have to do all the work. But if you were able to say, look, I'll handle everything, I think that could be a big win. I don't know.
Ooh, I'll try both those things. What are the benefits? And then also I'll handle everything. This is not a thing that will get dumped on you. So, I mean, this is great. This is exciting. And I love your mission of getting the 500 parties figured out. And so as we're kind of near the tail end, kind of the fun part of the show, I'm curious, like what were the origins of this? Are you like a naturally social guy, or was this needed for you and your social pursuits? Like how did this come about?
This came about because it changed my life. I was not a naturally social person. I had no friends, girlfriends, relationship in my 20s. And I moved to New York City and I realized I needed to change something. I don't do well in nightclubs, at loud networking events. I'm not successful at those things. And I said, instead of going to bad events, I'm going to learn how to host good events. And through a series of trial and error, hosting hundreds of parties, I started to do it. And then my friends, here's how the book came about. My friends asked me, hey, how can I learn how to do this? And I made a Google Doc that just got passed around from different friend groups on like all the stuff I had learned. And that's where the book started.
Amazing. So you solved your own problem, you solved other people's problems, you had this Google document, and then it turned into a whole book, which on the surface, it seems silly. It seems like, well, I need to relearn how to be an adult again, but I think we do. Like, I think I would have loved to have like a social instruction manual in high school in my 20s as well. And now we finally have it. So if someone says, I love this 2-hour cocktail party idea, what's the next step? How do I find out about this book and about Nick Gray and everything you have going on? Where do people go?
So you can use this book to host a clothing swap, a book swap, even a baby shower or a housewarming party. I'll include links for all those. They're just ways to gather. I'll include links to that in the show notes. The name of my book is The 2-Hour Cocktail Party, and you can buy it on Amazon. I recorded the audiobook, so you check that out. I'm real big. And then check me out. My website is nickgray.net. If you want to download a step-by-step guide for how to host your next party, I have a download on my website.
Fabulous. nickgray.net, the 2-hour cocktail party. And as we're ending our conversation here, Nick, we're doing the K step of the process, right? The kick them out. Do you have any final parting words of advice for us? Do you have anything in these last few years of your existence that were really profound, something you wish you knew back in your 20s? Anything come to mind as far as just like something big and memorable to leave us with?
So here's what I found. Everyone wants to know someone who brings people together, right? We all want to know that kind of connector. Seems like there's somebody from the movies who knows everyone, who can make any introduction. The secret that I found was anyone can become that person. You just have to step up and organize. Everyone wants to be invited to a party. It's a little gift that you get to give people. And I've invited thousands of people, and I've never had somebody say, stop inviting me to these free gatherings with interesting people and neighbors. So that's the secret that I'd encourage everybody. These days, we all could use a new friend, and I hope you think about hosting a party in 2023.